What is your most embarrassing moment on stage?
I think the one time I was all set to go on, and I had my tuxedo, but I didn't have black shoes. So I came out, and believe it or not, of course, the band was so focused, they didn't notice that I did the first half of the concert in my socks.
All right, mystery. What is the correct tempo for the end of Mars?
Funny you should ask that question. Everybody on this earth, except one person, slows Mars down very dramatically at the end. And it's always been done that way. And Holst, in his writings about the planets, talks about huge rallentando at the end of Mars. So I think the correct tempo is very slow and very dramatic.
Have you ever fallen on stage or lost control of your baton?
Yes, and it's happened actually a couple times, and unfortunately, flutes and the front row people are at most danger when that happens. Because what happens is, as you know, with the lights on the stage and everything else, you get sweaty. So I gave this real big cross cue, and the baton flew out of my hand and nailed my first flute player with that. So that happened, and little do any of you know, and I have since glued it, but at this year's concert, when I gave the downbeat to Stars and Stripes, the thing I grabbed onto fell off. So I'm basically holding it like that, and then the rest of the baton was up there, and I'm like this, but this wasn't connected. I was just holding it like that during Stars and Stripes. So it does happen, but these guys in the front, they're at ground zero.
How did you end up at Glenelg?
I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and when I got out of college, I went on the road with a band, and we were playing actually in Hagerstown, and I didn't know much about Maryland at all. And in the audience was the music supervisor at that time, Gene Miller, and he came up to me on a break and started talking and asked if I had teaching credentials, and I said, yeah, I do, but I'm not particularly interested in teaching right now because I was on the road with the band. And then, of course, shortly thereafter, the band broke up because the singer and the piano player had a huge fight, which is common in bands. So I called him, and he said he was supervisor in Howard County, Maryland. And I said, where is that? Because I had no idea. And I came down, and at that time, you have to figure, 40 years ago, 32 was this little single road. It's not the four-laner that you know now. And the Board of Ed was down right aside of Athelton High School. And I went in for an interview, and he said, well, I think I'd like you to teach at Glenelg High School. And of course, I made the immediate mistake of saying Glenelg with that, not realizing that it was silent if you're a local. And drove out here, which seemed like nothing was here. There, Burnt Woods across the street may have been like two houses were over there. There was nothing over there. It was, I'm telling you, I thought this place was in the middle of nowhere. And looked at it, and it was interesting because at that time the supervisors would hire you, not the principals. So we went in, and the supervisor told the principal at that time, here's your new band director. And he said, oh, okay, nice to meet you. The first day of school, I walk into the front office at Glenelg, and the principal comes out, and he looks at me, he goes, hi, can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm the new band director. Oh, let me show you where the band room is. And that's how I started at Glenelg High School. A little bit crazy, but the rest, as they say, is history as I look around this room.
What will you do with your extra time that you haven't been able to do until now?
You're not going to believe this. I'm going to practice. Yeah, what? I like to practice, and I want to really get my playing chops up so I can do a little bit more playing around town. When you're a band director, you're very, very busy. I mean, your schedule is crazy, and as all of your schedules are crazy, and you try to fit practice time in when you can. But I'm looking forward to doing that, practicing. Now, obviously, there'll be other things I'll do. I'd like to get my golf game a little sharper, too. And probably do some guest conducting, which I enjoy doing immensely, and some clinics. And actually, they have asked me to do the County GT Jazz Band next year. So I'll be around a little bit. And obviously, I'll be around here. But I think my wife has a whole list of things that I'm going to be doing. So I have to look at YouTube videos on how to drywall and build extra rooms. So we'll find out, see how all that goes.
Speaking of golfing, Mr. D, is it true that you, on each trip that we go on, that the truck breaks down and you and the other men go on a golfing trip?
No comment.
Who was the biggest influence on you musically when you were growing up? Did you have a mentor?
Actually, two. I had my junior high. At that time, they had what was called junior high schools. Have you guys ever heard of that concept?
No.
Yeah, it used to be 7th and 8th grade. It used to be junior high, sometimes 8th or 9th. But he was an excellent musician, and he got me very excited about playing. And then when my high school director was really terrific, and just playing in his ensembles got me fired up about thinking about music. At the time, I didn't know that I was going to teach, though. I thought I'd play a little bit, and actually did. I was on the road for a long time. Well, not a long time, but I went on the road as soon as I got out of school, and did some playing, and then started to teach. And those two people, just by watching and observing, I learned how to make a band sound good and how to rehearse, and found out that I really like to do that. Some days I like to do that. Depends on whether I'm receiving what I'm putting out. But it's, I think, to kind of dovetail onto that, one of the things I'm going to miss, obviously, other than all of your smiling faces, and I do mean that sincerely, is handing out a piece of music for the first time and watching the journey that you take with the music up to the adjudication or up to when we perform it. And I often threatened and have never did it, believe it or not, of recording the first read-through and then recording the final product with that. But I love that process. That process is really cool to watch you guys grow as the music grows too.
Mystery, what were you like in high school?
Well, many consider me to be the most perfect student ever in the history of mankind. I was every bit of you guys too. I mean, I like to, I had a good sense of humor. When it was time to play, though, I was pretty focused actually. But I enjoyed, doing a prank or a practical joke as much as anybody. I actually was toying a little bit when I was coming through school. I was very good at math, and I kind of was leaning in that direction, but the music just called out to me, and I ended up doing that. My senior year, I think I spent my entire year in the band room because I was always, making up excuses as to why I had to go to the band room with that, and that landed me in the principal's office with that, because I would, sometimes cut and come down and practice or jam. I'd get my buddies in the rhythm section and say, third period, let's go down to the band room. Okay. With that, but all in all, I enjoyed being in school, and I think many of you, I hope, take the time to enjoy this, and you'll really like college. College is really great. I loved being a student in college, and would love to go back. Maybe I will. Maybe I will finish up my doctorate. I started my doctorate, and then Jesse came along. And that was that. A lot of time.
Mine's a double question. Part one, what is the dumbest thing that a kid has ever done on the spring trip? And part two is, did Mr. Winters ever do anything ridiculously dumb on the spring trip?
Well, I think the dumbest thing was that story I shared with you at the banquet, where the person in this four-star hotel in Toronto decided what noise the smoke detector would make if you put a match up to it, and cleared out a four-star hotel, not realizing that all of that's connected. They're not going to sound the alarm just in that room. Gee, this room's on fire. Let's everybody just stay where you are. So I think that was the dumbest thing that ever happened. Although there's been some moments too. I think not this time that we were in Orlando, but the last time we were in Orlando at Wet n Wild, I handed somebody a ticket at the bus. Now, how far is the entrance from the bus? 20 feet? Mr. E, I lost my ticket. Duh.
At least they didn't leave that music in Maryland.
Yeah. I mean, there's been all kinds of things. Percussion missing their music. That happened, of course, present company. But it happened one time at the state adjudication. They forgot too. And it's the hint where I know the drummers don't have their music is that when we're ready to start, they're all like that looking at me, and I go, okay, something's up. As far as Mr. Winters goes, I know this sounds like a cop-out, but I don't recall him doing anything out of the ordinary. I know. It's very disappointing because you want the goods on him right from the get-go, where you can get the blackmail going, you can get all of that going right away, and make him feel uncomfortable. But I don't remember him doing anything that you would call in the dumb or out of the ordinary.
Mr. E, what is the first instrument you've ever played, and have you ever sung in a choir before?
The first instrument I ever played was actually, I don't even know if they have these, because they probably have recorders, but it was actually called a flutophone, which was a kissing cousin of the recorder. So that was kind of the first wind instrument I played. At home, we had a piano, so I would mess around on the piano a little bit. As far as a legitimate instrument, the first legitimate instrument I played was clarinet. And then I quickly doubled sax, and then in my high school years, I learned flute. And then when I went to my undergraduate, I did a triple major in clarinet, flute, and sax. As far as singing, yes, I sang in my junior high choir, and I also sang in my high school choir. And I find that singing improves your playing, believe it or not, because you're all really singing when you play your instrument. You just don't realize it. I think brass more so than anything else. And French horn probably more than any of the brasses because your partials are so sensitive with that. And which is why I always laugh when I do something like the Ascension and you guys have to sing and everybody gets giggles going and I don't sing. You know, that's silly. You're singing all the time with that. It's all music and it's all good.
So, Mr. E, do you plan on coming back as a guest soloist for any jazz concerts?
If I would be asked, I would be honored. I'd love to come back.
Mr. E, what is the stickiest situation you've ever been in?
Boy, oh boy. Well, I mean, in general or musically?
No, in general, like in a music situation, not like during a piece, but like.
So music involved, not like the time I was approaching the stoplight at 144, and I put the brake in and it went all the way to the floor, and I didn't have any brakes. Yeah, that's a sticky situation. Non-musical, but that was a sticky situation. I ended up, of course, going on the shoulder and just riding it on that bank until it finally stopped, and then I pulled the emergency brake. That was exciting. Sticky too. Musically, I think. I did a. I was guest soloing with a band, and we were doing a piece called Nightfall, and it's in the key of E. So 4 sharps. Saxophonists, you'll appreciate this. What key always sticks on the saxophone? G sharp. You always, if you're a sax player, you always check your G sharp key before any performance because it sticks. And the opening cadenza had about 1,000 G sharps in it, all which were G naturals with it. And sticky was exactly what it was. So I'm playing and I'm figuring out when can I grab the G sharp key and just go like that. But even sometimes that doesn't work. It'll re-stick. You have to do woodwinds, you know the dollar bill trick where your pad sticks and you do that. I really needed to do that, but it was like an absolute no-no with the instrument, and that was real sticky. I couldn't wait until after that opening cadenza. The band played like 8 bars, and I'm like getting the G sharp key, and then everything was fine after that. But it was at a band show, and there was this huge pond in the middle, and I wanted to jump in the pond. Horn goes in first, and then I jump in after it after we were done. But that was an interesting moment.
Mr. E, what are all the artists on your playlist?
The artists on my playlist, eclectic would be one word to describe it. I think that all of you, I hope all of you, don't go through your musical life with blinders on. I mean, certainly there's certain genres that I like, and a lot of it depends on what day you ask me we're doing. I mean, there's some days where it's jazz day in my car, but isn't it amazing how music can change your mood? Like if you're having a bad day, throw your headset on, throw your Beats on, throw whatever earbuds in, and you play that one song, and it turns your whole day around with that. Sometimes when I'm driving in with that, I actually play Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Great tune. Great tune. And then if I have a frustrating day, like, I don't know if any of you were at commencement yesterday, but you can't always get what you want. Sometimes I get that going. Sometimes if I need to really chill, I listen to Debussy, and any of his nocturnes with that, the Adagio for strings. If I'm going after something and I want to get in an aggressive mood, I play Mars. By the way, did I tell you the end is slowed down? When you perform Mars, traditionally it's slowed down. Everybody does it that way. Except for one. But there is so much music out there. Go see a ballet. Go see an opera. Go see a jazz concert. Go see. There's so much out there to see and hear. Don't narrow your scope. It's all good. I'm into quality, I think. If it's quality, I'll give it a listen, for sure.
Have you ever raged in band before?
I think some people would say I've had rage in band. No.
Would you play as Old MacDonald in your best jazz style? If you don't have an instrument on hand, you can just scat it or whatever you feel is out.
1, 2. Ba ba da da ba da da. Ba 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 da da. Bo dee bo dee ba 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 ba. Ba ba da da da. Dee dee dee. Beep beep beep. Beep beep beep. Dee dee dee. Ba beep dee da ba. Beep bop beep bop oh.
Did you play any sports when you were in like high school or junior high?
Yes, I was on the cross country and track team. Distance. The sprinters were the sprinters, but I was more of a distance guy. Actually, I still run. Try to get out as much as I can. I find running is very therapeutic, stress relief for me. But I did run track, and I also did cross country.
What are your biggest pet peeves that students do?
Biggest pet peeves that students do is that they don't observe the calendar and get into a situation where they're walking down the hallway and someone says, "Yeah, see your rehearsal tonight." We have rehearsal tonight? And then, the excuses start flying with that. But I think rehearsing is so important. It's like anything else. It's practicing, rehearsing. And I think sometimes when the student would come back with, "Well, I know my music," that's good. That's a given. That should be required, that you know your music. But what's the flaw with that? Well, yeah, you have to work that into the group. I have to work balance, I have to work intonation, all that kind of thing. And yeah, you should know your music, but I can't work it if you're not there, because that adds another thing. So I would say that probably is one of my things that I don't like if people aren't attentive to making the rehearsal.
What is your analysis of Chip Kelly's off-season transactions?
This could take a while. Most of you know, or those of you that tune into the NFL know that I, being from Pennsylvania, I'm a Philadelphia Eagle fan. And I have no idea what Chip Kelly's doing with that. He's made some interesting things. We'll see in the fall.
Were you Glenelg's first band director? And if not, did you know the person before you?
I was not. Apparently there were two directors before me. One had an interesting name, and I hope I pronounce this right, Bonanzar. And then after that was a gentleman named Bob Johnson, who I replaced. And he went to Mount Hebron and was at Mount Hebron forever. till he was replaced there. But I think I'm the third band director with that, and Mr. Winters will be the fourth.
So I have two questions, but they're not related at all to each other. So the first one, have you ever regretted handing out a piece of music to a band or jazz band? And also, is it true that the best musical players are Philadelphia fans?
Okay, we're on the Philadelphia Eagles bandwagon here. Of course, Eagle fans are the best fans on earth with that. Your other question was, did I ever regret? I don't think regret's the right word, but I think the most important thing that I have done and that directors need to do is they need to pick the right music for the group they have. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And sometimes I'll hand out a piece of music and I'll go, that's not going to work. So it's more of that feeling. And what you do as a director, the good directors catch it in time. Like you go, okay, that's really not going to work. Pass that back in. Let's do this one. But I pretty much, when I hear you play, I pretty much know in my head what music is possible with that. And I usually, obviously, the thing is to challenge people who are really killer players and not overwhelm people who may not have as much technical ability. So there's all these decisions that go into making it. But I think there is a Glenelg sound that has been present for my tenure here. And it's a sound that, of course, is very musical, and it's also very confident sound also. So when Glenelg comes to play, everybody knows it's Glenelg.
What are some of the biggest changes in the Glenelg music program over the years?
The biggest change happened within the first 2 years, and it was an attitude change. I think when I first got here, as I said, the band was pretty small, and they were allowed to talk for half the period before they would start rehearsal. And I found that so foreign. Like, what? So there was that change was the first thing that happened. But then we had to get new uniforms because the old uniforms were just awful. They were these faded red blazers with really bad gray pants. And everybody just wore white shirts with it. So getting that first set of uniforms kind of changed that culture. Getting the sound to where I wanted it happened. It all happened about the third year that I was there, which is when the string of adjudication ones started with that. So at 39 years in a row with that. And then success breeded success. I mean, a lot of you knew about this band before you ever got in it, and knew that you wanted to be in it, and that I love. I love that it's something that this school is identified with this program. Everywhere I go, like last night, all the dignitaries on stage, the first thing out of their mouth is about the Glenelg Band. You are very famous, not only in this county and state, but everywhere. Oh, you're associated with the Glenelg Band? Wow. So that was kind of developing to get it where I wanted it.
What is your favorite song to conduct out of all 41 years?
That's almost an impossible question, only because there's been so many I've loved to conduct with that. I think as it is for you to play it, when you get Abrams at speed, also conducting it is a workout. It's a real workout. But there's been a number of obviously Mars, the Robert W. Smith stuff, the Ascension, and that kind of stuff. It's all very fun to conduct. Something I haven't done for a while is Overture to Candide, which is really a great piece of music also. With it, but I've had my favorites over the years. It's really, really. It's almost like when people ask, "What's your favorite song?" Today. So there's been a lot of great ones to do it, and some that are simple yet really fun to conduct when everything's gone, like Stars and Stripes. How cool was Stars and Stripes at the concert? You know, I mean, really fun to conduct. And I hope that when the one thing I try to do is I try to make you feel comfortable making entrances and giving me back emotion when I conduct. I think conductors who conduct like this, where they're just looking at the music and waving their hand, if you listen to their group, that's what you're hearing a very vanilla kind of thing. So one of the first things I always do is I memorize the score as quickly as possible, which is the reason I'm always saying, so what letter was that? Because I don't necessarily memorize the rehearsal numbers or the letters, but I have it all up here. It's also weird when you give a downbeat and expect a certain sound and it doesn't happen. It's like frightening inside of me with that. So I hope, that whole thing about communication, eye contact's very important with conducting, and just really trying to pull the music from the ensemble with that. And I hope you felt that on your side of the podium.
Which instrument was the most difficult for you to learn?
Well, when you do your undergrad, when you major in music and you do your undergrad, the first thing you do is you make sure that June doesn't leave. Won't be long. If you have to go that bad, it won't be long. We're almost done. You play every instrument when you do your undergrad. So I've played all the brasses, strings, woodwinds. So you end up playing all of them. I found the most sensitive brass instrument to be the French one. Again, only because the partials are so tight with it. With trumpet, euphonium, tuba, and trombone, your partials are a little bit easier to hear. Sometimes, for instance, Haley, if you play open, how many different notes can you play? Yeah, about 8 notes at a given time. So, woodwind-wise, I think oboe is I found the most challenging, only because even more so than clarinet and the saxophones, the reed, you are so at the mercy of the reed. If you have a bad reed on a double reed instrument, it's just a horror show with that. But what I find interesting is that when you learn something out of your major, like I was a woodwind major, you almost understand a little bit more about the brasses, because what you do on the woodwinds is so natural that you don't think about the process. But when I think about trombone, I really think about the process I went through learning the trombone. And it's a little easier to translate that back to the player.
What's the greatest difference between students now and then?
I sometimes look at you guys and I think, I don't know how you're doing it, because I think the system has so much pressure on you guys. They test you guys to death. And now I can say this because I'm leaving. So, but I think they overemphasize. I think it's important for you guys to know how to think and make decisions. And you should hopefully, when you come in here sixth period, be able to take a nice sigh and go, I can play some music. Because I think there's a lot of pressure on you guys, and it seems more so today. It seems like they want to test you every month of the entire year. And I think, so when do we teach? And more importantly, again, what's really important is for you guys to be able to think and problem solve with that. And I think we think about music, you do that constantly. Be natural. Sorry, bro, we didn't get your question.